When we talk about appetite, most people imagine it as something simple. Your stomach growls, you feel hungry, you eat, and the problem is solved. But the reality is far more complex. Appetite is not just a matter of an empty stomach. It's a dance between your body and your brain, your hormones and your habits, your physiology and your psychology. And if we're honest, most of the battles we fight with food aren't about genuine hunger at all. They're about cravings, stress, boredom, and the signals our modern lifestyle constantly throws at us. Think about the last time you felt hungry, an hour after a big meal. That wasn't your body needing fuel. That was your brain responding to a cue, maybe the smell of fresh bread, the sight of a commercial, or the comfort of wanting something sweet after dinner. Appetite, in that sense, is not just biological, it's emotional. And if we want to control it naturally, without relying on harsh pills or gimmicks, we have to start by understanding how this system actually works. Inside your body, there are two main hormones that regulate hunger. Ghrelin, often called the hunger hormone, rises when your stomach is empty, sending a message to your brain that it's time to eat. Then there's leptin, which signals fullness, telling you when you've had enough. When these two are in balance, eating feels effortless. You get hungry when you should, you stop when you've had enough. But modern life disrupts this balance. Processed foods, lack of sleep, constant stress, and even mindless snacking can keep ghrelin levels high and blunt leptin sensitivity. The result? You feel hungry even when you don't need food, and you rarely feel satisfied when you do eat. This is why understanding appetite isn't just about food. It's about alignment. It's about getting your hormones, your brain, now the diet, your behaviors to work together instead of against each other. And here's the encouraging part: nature already gave us the tools to do this. The best natural appetite suppressants aren't exotic or expensive. They're already in your home, waiting to be used. But before we explore them, we need to recognize the psychological role appetite plays in our lives. For many of us, food has become more than fuel. It has become comfort, distraction, even entertainment. When we feel stressed, we don't just crave calories, we crave the soothing effect that eating gives us. When we're bored, food fills the gap. When we're sad, it feels like a companion. And so, the appetite we're dealing with isn't just physical, it's deeply emotional. If we don't acknowledge that, no amount of dieting will fix the cycle. But once we do, we can begin to shift. We can begin to choose foods and habits that calm both the body and the mind, that reduce the intensity of cravings, and that give us back control over when and why we eat. Here's where natural appetite suppressants become so powerful. Unlike chemical suppressants that try to mute your hunger artificially, natural foods and habits work with your hormones. They help ghrelin rise and fall in the right rhythm. They sharpen leptin sensitivity so you actually feel satisfied when you should. And perhaps most importantly, they give you tools to distinguish between real hunger and false hunger. That distinction changes everything. Imagine what your life would feel like if you could look at a plate of food and know with certainty whether your body needed it or whether it was just your emotions speaking. That's freedom. And this brings us to a deeper truth. Controlling appetite is not about willpower. Willpower runs out. It's about wisdom, choosing the right tools, the right habits, the right rituals that make balance easier. When you hydrate before meals, when you eat fiber-rich foods, when you sip herbal teas instead of sodas, you're not fighting your appetite. You're guiding it. You're teaching your body how to remember its natural rhythm. And once your body remembers, eating becomes simple again. There's also something profoundly empowering about realizing that appetite doesn't have to control you. When you understand the biology and psychology behind it, you step into a new identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is constantly war with food and begin to see yourself as someone who can partner with food. That shift from conflict to partnership changes not only your waistline, but your relationship with yourself. So the next time you feel a craving creep in, pause for a moment and ask, is this true hunger, or is this a signal from my emotions? That single question has the power to interrupt a lifetime of automatic eating. And once you begin to build awareness, the natural tools you already have at home, water, fiber, spices, teas, mindful rituals, can step in and do their work. Because at the end of the day, appetite is not your enemy. It's simply a signal. When you learn to read it correctly, you don't have to silence it. You only have to guide it. And that guidance doesn't come from force, but from knowledge, intention, and small daily choices. Remember this: controlling appetite naturally isn't about eating less. It's about eating right at the right time for the right reason. Once you master that, You no longer live in fear of hunger, you live in harmony with it. If we want to bring appetite under control in a natural way, we have to talk about the body's own built-in satiety system, fiber and water. It's so simple that many people overlook it, yet it's one of the most powerful appetite suppressants we already have at home. Think about it. Your body was designed to recognize fullness not by counting calories on a label, but by sensing volume, stretch, and nutrient density. Fiber and hydration are the quiet guardians of that process. Let's begin with fiber. Unlike sugar or refined carbs that break down quickly and vanish into your bloodstream, fiber resists digestion. It moves slowly through the gut, expanding and holding water, which gives you a steady, prolonged sense of fullness. When you eat a bowl of oatmeal in the morning or an apple in the afternoon, you're not just feeding your body, you're giving your brain a signal, "We're satisfied." No need to keep searching. That's why high fiber foods consistently appear in studies on weight control. They don't just fill the stomach, they calm the appetite. But there's another dimension to fiber that's even more fascinating. It acts like a natural traffic controller for your blood sugar. When you eat fiber alongside carbohydrates, the release of sugar into your bloodstream slows down. This means fewer spikes, fewer crashes, and far less of the roller coaster that leaves you craving sweets or salty snacks. In other words, fiber doesn't just fill you, it stabilizes you. It prevents those mood swings and energy dips that often masquerade as hunger. Imagine the power of a diet where your appetite is no longer a storm of highs and lows, but a steady rhythm you can trust. Now pair that with hydration. We underestimate water because it's so ordinary, but it plays a profound role in appetite control. The body often confuses thirst with hunger. How many times have you reached for food when what you really needed was a glass of water? Drinking a tall glass of water before a meal stretches the stomach, triggers stretch receptors, and primes the body to feel full sooner. It's not a trick, it's a biological reality. By hydrating, you're working with your physiology rather than against it. Herbal teas fall into this category too. They hydrate, they soothe, and many carry added appetite, calming properties of their own. Peppermint reducing cravings, ginger improving digestion, green tea stabilizing metabolism. Simply replacing a sugary drink with a cup of herbal tea gives you hydration, satiety, and metabolic support all at once. It's not deprivation, it's substitution, and it changes the game. But here's where psychology enters. Fiber and hydration aren't just about biochemistry, they're about ritual. When you choose to eat an apple instead of a cookie, or you pause to drink water before giving in to a craving, you're teaching your brain a lesson. I have control. I can choose satisfaction without surrendering to impulse. That lesson accumulates. Each time you act with that intention, you're building a stronger identity as someone who manages appetite wisely. Over time, the body doesn't just respond physically, the mind begins to trust itself again. There's also something philosophical here. In a world that bombards us with artificial solutions, pills, powders, processed snacks promising fullness, fiber and water remind us that the body's wisdom is older and deeper than any fad. Nature already equipped us with mechanisms to control appetite. When you eat foods rich in fiber, beans, lentils, vegetables, flax seeds, chia, whole grains, you're not just suppressing hunger, you're honoring the design of your biology. When you drink water or sip tea, you're not just quenching thirst, you're respecting the body's need for balance. These acts reconnect you with simplicity, with the truth that health doesn't need to be complicated. And let's not overlook the emotional weight of consistency. Drinking enough water and eating fiber-rich foods are not dramatic gestures. They don't provide instant gratification, but their quiet power is precisely what makes them transformative. They build stability, they lower cravings, they create an environment where appetite no longer feels like an enemy. And in that stable environment, it becomes easier to make better choices without feeling like you're fighting yourself. If you've been struggling with appetite, don't start with drastic diets or expensive supplements. Start with the basics. Add a handful of flax seeds to your breakfast. Choose lentils or beans at lunch. Keep a water bottle nearby and sip it throughout the day. Replace one evening snack with a cup of peppermint or ginger tea. These are not huge sacrifices, they're small shifts. But small shifts repeated daily carve out big changes. Because the real power of fiber and hydration is not just that they suppress appetite. It's that they restore trust between you and your body. They remind you that you already have the tools to feel satisfied, to feel in control, to feel steady. And once you trust that, you stop chasing quick fixes and start living in alignment with what your body was designed to do. So here's the thought to carry with you. Fullness doesn't come from eating more. It comes from eating right and hydrating wisely. And when you master that, appetite is no longer something to fear. It becomes something you can understand, respect, and guide. One of the most fascinating truths about appetite is that it's not just controlled by the stomach, it's deeply influenced by the brain. And the brain can be tricked, soothed, and guided by something as simple as flavor. This is where the spices and herbs you already have in your kitchen become powerful appetite suppressants. They don't just make food taste better, they interact with your senses, your hormones, and your nervous system in ways that reduce cravings, stabilize blood sugar, and create a sense of satisfaction long before you've overeaten. Take cinnamon, for example. It's warm, fragrant, and comforting, but beyond its flavor, it has a remarkable ability to regulate blood sugar. When your blood sugar spikes, you feel a rush of energy, followed quickly by a crash that leaves you searching for your next fix. Cinnamon helps flatten that curve. It slows the release of glucose into the bloodstream, keeping your energy steady and your appetite under control. Imagine the difference between a roller coaster and a calm river. That's what cinnamon does. It transforms your energy landscape, making it far less likely that you'll be reaching for snacks every hour. A sprinkle on your morning oats or in your afternoon tea isn't just flavor, it's appetite management in disguise. Then there's ginger. For centuries, it has been prized for its digestive benefits, but its role in appetite control is just as impressive. Ginger increases thermogenesis, gently raising your body's temperature and metabolism. But more importantly, it creates a feeling of satiety. When you drink ginger tea before a meal, you often notice that you feel full faster. This isn't an illusion. It's the body responding to compounds in ginger that influence appetite hormones and digestion. And the beauty is, ginger doesn't force you into deprivation. It makes eating a natural, balanced process again. Cayenne pepper is another secret weapon hiding in plain sight. The heat of cayenne comes from capsaicin, a compound shown to reduce hunger and increase fat burning. Capsaicin stimulates the nervous system in a way that temporarily suppresses appetite, and it also boosts metabolism, helping you burn slightly more calories even at rest. But here's the philosophical layer. When you eat something spicy, you slow down, you savor, you breathe, you notice. Spicy foods demand mindfulness, and that mindfulness, combined with the appetite-suppressing effect of capsaicin, creates a powerful 1-2 punch against overeating. And don't underestimate peppermint. Its refreshing coolness doesn't just cleanse the palate, it calms the nervous system. Studies have shown that the aroma of peppermint alone can reduce cravings and promote a sense of fullness. Think about how profound that is before you even swallow. Your brain is receiving signals that quiet the urge to snack. That's the hidden power of scent and flavor. It shows us that appetite is as much about perception as it is about physiology. By choosing flavors that signal calm and satisfaction, you can rewrite the script your brain is following. What all of these spices and herbs remind us is that appetite isn't an enemy to be crushed. It's a signal to be guided. And flavor is one of the gentlest, most elegant ways to guide it. Instead of relying on willpower to push away cravings, you use natural compounds to reduce their intensity before they even take hold. That shift from fighting cravings to calming them is what makes these everyday kitchen staples so powerful. There's also a deeper wisdom here about how we experience food. Flavor is one of the great joys of eating, yet in a culture of fast, processed meals, flavor has often been reduced to sugar, salt, and fat. Real spices remind us that flavor can heal, not just harm. When you season your food with cinnamon, ginger, cayenne, or peppermint, you're not only elevating the taste, you're engaging in a form of self-care. You're telling yourself that food can be both pleasurable and purposeful. That union of pleasure and purpose is what makes long-term appetite control sustainable. And notice what this approach is not. It's not extreme. It doesn't ask you to cut out entire food groups or live in constant restriction. It simply asks you to make use of what's already there, hidden in plain sight. A shake of cinnamon, a slice of ginger, a dash of cayenne, a cup of peppermint tea. These are not burdens. They are small, intentional choices that build over time. And it's often those small choices that define the direction of your health more than any radical overhaul. So the next time you step into your kitchen, look at your spice rack not as decoration, but as medicine, as psychology, as philosophy. Understand that the flavors you choose are shaping not just your meal, but your appetite, your energy, and your relationship with food itself. Because here's the truth worth carrying with you. Sometimes the most powerful appetite suppressants are not exotic supplements or complicated tricks. They are simple flavors used with intention that remind your brain you already have enough. When we talk about appetite control, most people think it's about what they eat. But in reality, one of the greatest influences on your appetite has nothing to do with the food itself. It's about when and how you eat. Rituals and timing shape hunger more than many realize. They condition the body and the brain, teaching them when to expect food, how much to desire, and when to stop. And the best part, these are tools we already have at our disposal. We just have to use them with awareness. Let's start with the idea of rhythm. The human body runs on cycles. Your heartbeat, your breath, your sleep, even your hormones all follow rhythms. Appetite is no different. When you eat at the same time each day, your body begins to anticipate it. Hormones like ghrelin, the hunger hormone, rise before mealtime and then quiet once you've eaten. But if your eating times are scattered, snacking here, grabbing something there, you confuse this rhythm. Hunger signals begin to appear at random, not because your body needs fuel, but because it has lost its schedule. Establishing consistent eating rituals, structured times for meals, and even for snacks teaches your body when to feel hungry and when to rest. Another important aspect is the ritual around how you begin a meal. Imagine the difference between standing in front of the refrigerator, eating straight from a container, versus sitting down, pouring yourself a glass of water or tea, taking a breath, and then beginning your meal. One scenario is chaotic and unconscious, the other mindful and grounded. The ritual doesn't just slow you down, it actually primes your brain to register satisfaction sooner. It's not about calories, it's about perception. When you create a ritual before eating, you're sending a signal. This is a meal, not a mindless act. And that shift alone can cut down on overeating. There's also incredible power in pausing. So many people eat until they're stuffed because they never give the body time to catch up with the brain. It takes about 20 minutes for your satiety hormones to fully register that you've eaten enough. By simply introducing a ritual of pausing, maybe putting your fork down halfway through, sipping water, or even just taking a few breaths, you give your body the space to recognize fullness. This is one of the simplest yet most effective appetite control tools. It doesn't ask you to eat less. It allows you to discover that you already want less. Timing also extends into the daily rhythm of eating. Studies consistently show that when we front load our nutrition, eating larger, more balanced meals earlier in the day, we experience fewer cravings at night. Late night hunger is one of the most stubborn challenges people face, and often it's not real hunger at all. It's fatigue masquerading as appetite. By adjusting your timing, by making breakfast or lunch your main meal and keeping dinner lighter, you align your eating with your body's natural metabolism, which is more active earlier in the day. This small shift can dramatically change how much you crave after sunset. And then there's the ritual of drinking before eating. A glass of water, a cup of herbal tea, or even a light broth before a meal is an ancient practice found in many cultures. It stretches the stomach, awakens the digestive system, and creates a gentle sensation of fullness that makes overeating less likely. It's a ritual that is both physical and symbolic. You are telling your body, prepare. Nourishment is coming, and because you've created that moment of intention, you naturally eat more mindfully. On a deeper level, rituals and timing reconnect us with the sacredness of eating. In today's fast-paced world, food has become background noise. We eat in cars, at desks, while scrolling on phones. But when eating is stripped of ritual, it becomes an unconscious act, and unconscious eating always leads to overconsumption. By bringing ritual back, whether it's blessing your food, sitting with family, or simply taking a moment of gratitude, you elevate eating from a mechanical act to a conscious experience. And consciousness is the ultimate appetite suppressant because it brings awareness to every bite. Think of how children thrive on routine. They feel calmer, safer, more secure when they know what to expect. Adults are no different. Our appetite calms down when it knows there is order, when the body trusts that it will be fed at the right times and in the right way. Without that trust, hunger becomes restless, demanding, and constant. With that trust, hunger becomes rhythmic, predictable, and far easier to manage. This is why I often say appetite control is less about willpower and more about wisdom. Willpower exhausts itself quickly. But wisdom, creating rhythms, establishing rituals, respecting timing, becomes effortless over time. It removes the battle entirely because hunger is no longer random. It is structured, guided, and predictable. So if you're struggling with appetite, don't just focus on what's on your plate. Focus on when you sit down, how you begin, the pauses you take, And the rituals you create, these are the invisible strings pulling at your hunger, and once you learn to guide them, the struggle begins to fade. Here's the reflection I want to leave you with. You don't need more discipline to control appetite, you need better rituals. And once you master the timing of your own body, appetite stops being a problem to solve and becomes a rhythm you can dance with.